Okay, I think this is about the 14th, 15th video we've done. I want to say a few words about the comments that are coming in. I'm gonna ask you, don't try to promote your website on this. This is probably the only video on YouTube that you're getting this kind of content. And the comments that I'm getting is kind of revealing kind of the mentality that's out there, telling me that they want stuff to read. So the educated class of people out there, they're wanting something to read. You know what? We live in a world they can't stand that personal connection. They can't do it. They don't like the personal connection. They think anything coming from a human being would be much better put in writing. That's what I'm getting from some of these people. Duh. Let me remind you that I know you don't think he's much, probably some of you, but Jesus said he wanted his message to be preached. He didn't say go and write down all this stuff and give him books. He said preach it. He wanted his gospel to be preached amongst all nations, beginning at Jerusalem. Now, I've noticed there's people that'll watch one video, they'll comment on that one, and they'll run off to cyberspace. I encourage you to watch all these videos. That's why I put these in videos in freestyle, so that you could compare, hey, I want to find fault with this guy. I want to find out if what he says here jives with what he says over here, you know. And then you'll start to find out that how many men can get on there and make these many videos freestyle with no script, just some notes to kind of look over without contradicting himself. Now, this is kind of a random video. We're going to kind of recap a few things that we've already talked about. Plus, I'm going to go into a few things that we didn't get to touch on. I'm going to try, and then I still won't be finished. It's just going to go on and on. I don't know how we're going to handle all this information. Okay, Peter was called to minister to Jerusalem, the Apostle Peter, not to Rome. And Rome made another, they're the liars of the world. They're the master liars of the world. And they've got so many dumb people out there. They know what you're not capable of. Rome knows what the general mentality level of the world is. And what you're not getting is when I tell you about the correlation between the federal government and the Roman Catholic Empire, you're not getting it. We're talking about the controllers of the world's money. I want you to listen to how naive and how really simple-minded the world is on this subject regarding the control of the world's money. Jesus told us that the Roman Empire was controlling Jerusalem's money at that time, Israel's money. When he said, give me a penny, whose inscription is on the penny? Caesar. Duh. So how do people take that? How do people handle that? They think it's Caesar? Rome is just controlling Israel's money and thumping on Israel's head, and all these other countries are getting away scot-free? You're talking about, look at them now. Look at the Roman Empire now. Same Roman Empire, same geographical location, and listen to this, folks. They don't have their own army. They don't need an army. But yet they do have armies. These people are going around molesting children. They've infiltrated every country on this planet. And they're doing whatever they want to do, and they're getting away with it. And you're not getting the picture. You're looking for some... You don't want to face what's right there in front of you. They control all the world's army. And you think who controls this, the money of the world, is some fat old white banker sitting somewhere. Hey, we got them by the balls. We're controlling their money. Do you understand this Roman Empire has poisoned kings, poisoned their own popes, murdered emperors, kings throughout history? What makes you think that they ain't going to infiltrate and take over the banking system? What have these little circle of fat bankers got that kings with armies numbering into the millions? They've had this a long time ago. They knew that if they could create something that men traded for goods thousands of years ago, and if they could control that, they accomplished so much control over the world. And you intelligent ones out there that's talking all this cyber talk on, all your little web talk and trying to be cool and using all your little computer language. Come on, grow up. People avoid and turn their face away from the things they're really afraid of. This is a scary, scary topic. You want to talk about the world where you've got all these morons, conspiracy theorists running around talking about 9/11, the Twin Towers, and they're running their mouth about this and that. But they don't want to go farther. They don't want to get into the real depth of the Bible, and they don't want to get into the real depths of what really happens in our world. Then again, I'll encourage you to get into that. Wounded in the House of My Friends. You'll get into the man that really gave the order to assassinate John F. Kennedy. And when you stop having guys like me issuing a warning, not getting paid, trying to help the world, trying to help out, make it a better place to live. When you get rid of us, when you wipe us out, what do you got? You're not going to get educated. You're not getting educated now. Keep in mind that when you do go to get educated, you want to learn about computers. You want to be a software writer. Or you want to do something with computers. If you're going to get a real high-quality education in this country, it costs you an arm and a leg, because 70% of what you're going to be forced to learn in college is you say, you want to learn about these computers? Well, we're going to teach you our false side of history before you get to learn computers. This is where they got you. They don't want you to learn just about computers, just about the things that really matter, the real thing you want to get into. They got a lot of priests and monks and Jesuits, and they ain't got nothing to do but be pedophiles, write dictionaries, invent new words, and figure out another little maze to run you mice through, me included. Now, okay, so Rome lied to you again when they told you that they had Peter's bones at the Vatican. They ain't got Peter's bones at the Vatican. Peter was called to administer and preach in Jerusalem, not Rome. Paul was called to Rome, Paul the Apostle. People are not aware that their culture was created by the Catholic Empire. And I want to give you what a real definition is. I'm going to give you the true definition of what the Roman Catholic Empire truly is. Listen to this. They're farmers. They're farmers. They don't farm corn. They don't farm beans. And they don't grow fruit or strawberries or edible food. They grow cultures, human beings. That's their game. They deal with human beings. They grow human beings, nurture them, so that they can be an intricate part, a vital part of transferring the money and getting a part and making the money system strong. And here's the scary part. If you'll go back in any country, all you think of is what you're seeing here in the United States. You're seeing it go through an economic change. You're seeing the harvest. Everything has a beginning, and everything has its most highest and best time to sell or get rid of it. You take a crop in the field. The farmer works the field, he plants the seeds, and all of a sudden it starts to grow. And you water it, and he worries about the weather, and he worries about whether it gets enough rain, and he grows that up. Imagine this as people. And then when they get to their highest and best use, they whack it. They harvest it. And That's what they did to this country. And you say, oh, China's the one, and blah, blah, blah. You got you all singing the same song. The media has directed you so cleverly into that direction to make you think that China. They transferred their crop attention to China. Now China is cultivating, and they're making that money. You had your day. And then you got your unions in there, and you just wanted more and more and more. And Rome says, well, now it's time to whack them off. So they moved all the manufacturing to China because China bought some of the United States' debt, paid the Roman Empire, the world order, a big chunk of the debt we have. Well, it was not near enough to cover half of what we owe. And let me tell you how it works, okay? You listen to me, all you cyber geniuses out there. Now, they use morals. That's why we live in such a moral world, where we're taught to be so moral. Oh, we got to be clean. We got to clean our house. We got to clean our dishes. We got to be so clean. So they inflicted a lot of morality on you. And Jesus tried to tell us again. We find, if we listen to Jesus, we find a contradiction to this theory, because Jesus was eating without washing his hands, and all the moral people were saying, "Oh, he's not even washed his hands," and they murmured and criticized and so forth. And Jesus got on to him. He says, you think so much of the outside of the cup, but yet the inside of the cup is filthy. So what I'm trying to tell you is first they have to inflict all these moral stigmatisms on you, and this is what keeps you in control. You be so moral. But you realize the same clowns that inflict all this morality on you are getting busted for being pedophiles. There's so much evidence right here in front of you. You've got to start taking a look at this stuff and growing up and thinking for yourself, and quit letting the media do it for you. And that stupid internet, you think they ain't the one that birthed that? They're behind all that. They're not going to let you have anything. They're not going to let you have a gun. They're not going to let you have technology or anything that they ain't got something bigger that they can blow you away with. Now, what they do is, well, this is heavy and it's not that easy to explain. They get you into this cultured situation. You're just like a plant in the field. You're planted so many widths away from the next plant because they're the ones that store this information. The Roman Empire was the first civilization, the world order, if you will, and they're not the first image of the world order. The world order was in Egypt. The world order was in Babylon. And this rode through history, and it's set in Rome. The Bible tells us these things, so it ain't going nowhere else. It's set in Rome. The Bible tells you it's Rome. It's Rome. Read the 17th chapter of Revelations. So the world order, the crux of the world order is in Rome, and I'll tell you something else. And you can say, well, he ain't right because everybody's making fun of the Catholic Church now. Everybody's putting that. When they use religion, it's a costume. And when it gets to the point where that costume isn't really benefiting them anymore, they've already shifted their power and their might into the federal entity, the federal government thing. So they really don't care that much about the religious costume anymore. It's there. They still got a billion suckers dipping their heads in the well, but they don't really care if they lose. If you want to find fault, they don't care how many people criticize the Roman Catholic Church, because all their money's bet on the federal government right now. The federal system. You look it up. You look up in Canada here. Federation, Russia, federal government. They got a federal government in China. That's right. They're in China. They're all over. Now, there's just a few countries on the face of the earth that's not really federalized. And when you federalize, let me tell you what you do. They take over your country. And they decide what your kids are going to learn in school. All your teachers are reading, and have been for quite a while, from a program in a book. And they're not supposed to deviate from that. They're supposed to stay in that book. If they don't stay in that book, here's what we want you to teach. Here's the history we want you to teach. Here's what we teach. And you need a little math, and you need what you need to get in school and so forth, okay? But you've got to swallow a whole bunch of garbage just to get the education, the math and the basic things that you need to figure your bills and all that type of stuff. All right, now, let me tell you how this works. They culturize a country and get it thinking the way they want to. And to do this, they have to control 5 basic things in a country. They've got to control your government, which they do. They invented your government. They structured, blueprinted, and laid out the groundwork for every government system, every federal system. They did this years ago. They were at work turning this country, world, over to federalization many, many years before we even heard of the word. A third world country, if you'll look this up, is a country that has been either harvested or in the process of starting to grow. Now they'll tell you on Google, if you look this up, don't think Google ain't one of their babies, it is. They talk about third world countries being poor countries and so forth. Third world countries are just small players. They're not anything that they think that they can get an agricultural hold or a way that's going to generate a lot of financial action. And when you look at the countries that they have gutted, like Mexico, what you basically got in Mexico is multi-million-dollar Catholic churches and poverty. And how this institution can spread itself all over this planet and flaunt their gold and their robes and their arrogance. Remember, haven't you heard and seen TV, the old movies, they told you that a policeman couldn't go to a Catholic monastery. All Catholic monasteries in the United States, if a policeman wanted to go in thinking he was going to try to find evidence on a crime or an injury, he can't go in there. Policeman can't enter that monastery. These things, all these things ought to add up and tell you that I might be trying to get you to look in the right direction. All right. Even your planets, okay? Your planets. These are things I haven't got to mention in the other videos. Your planets in your solar system are named after Roman gods with a small g. Pluto was the Roman god of the underworld, another kind of a version of the devil. See, this devil has had many names and went under many images throughout history. And God only has one name, Jesus. He's got several titles that different races and cultures have given him. This God of the Bible, Jehovah, they come up with Yahweh and all this kind of stuff, or Jesus means Yahweh. But notice that the name Jesus was not revealed in the Old Testament, and it wasn't revealed by name until he was to be born, when we find Jesus, the word Jesus in the New Testament. And the identity of this Jesus was not fully revealed, and still isn't revealed, because it had to be kept a mystery. Read 1 Corinthians chapter 2, 6 through 9 on that issue. But that's another issue. I want to finish what my notes here say. Your planets were named after Roman gods. You've got Venus. You have Mars. All these were Roman gods. Your Sunday, the very day, the 7th day of the week, you'll notice if you'll look at our website, everything we've given you on there has some real significance and some real education behind it. If you look at the word Sunday, it's not spelled S-O-N like Son of God. It's spelled S-U-N like the sun god Baal. You are in a Roman world, a Roman galaxy. When they called Catholicism universal is what it truly means, they wasn't joking. They didn't just want to control what's in their backyard. They wanted to control every living human being that draws air on this planet. And every human that may float out into the galaxies. Universal. Universal conquest. Universal control. And if you don't think they've got their fingers in your school, in your church, you better open your eyes. Because the World Council of Churches was created to encompass all Protestant churches and make them feel like idiots if they didn't try to work together to get along. But understand this, the Roman Catholic Church is not part of the World Council of Churches. There is another piece of evidence of their arrogance. Though they try to encompass all other churches, all other denominations into this get along, any old dog will do World Council of Churches, and if you don't try to become ecumenical and get along, then you're labeled as some kind of a racist, or you're labeled as a troublemaker or a fundamentalist, a mad fundamentalist. I talked to a preacher just here recently who he said, I think the real danger in this world is these hard-headed fundamentalists that want to impose their will on everybody else. That's what Hitler did. Who in the you think Hitler worked for? Who do you think put together the Nazi Party? They got the Catholic crosses hanging all over those Nazis. That was Vatican action in this world. The Jesuits was basically the Nazis. The high-ranking Nazi SS officers were Catholic Jesuits. There was a lot of them that were Jesuit priests. And all they had to do was change their uniform and fooled you. You better wake up. You're getting drawn into something that's really going to be nasty.